Hi everybody. Sympathy, empathy, pity. What are they? So, and this is little Houdini. Show your face. There you go, there's little Houdini. Sympathy would be when you can imagine what somebody is feeling, but you've never experienced the same thing. So, for example, you have kind, loving parents. Your parents are alive. Your colleague, friend, associate, partner has kind, loving parents, and one of their parents has passed, or both parents have passed. You cannot empathize with them. You can only sympathize with them because you haven't felt what they are going through. So sympathy would be where you could imagine how that person might be feeling. Now, let's be honest, you can never know how somebody feels, but you get more of an idea once you've been through a similar circumstance. Come, my boy. Come. So, realistically, sympathy is where you showing sadness while imagining how that person might feel. So you could think of how you might feel if you lost one of your parents, or a similar scenario. You can apply it to almost anything, where somebody loses all their possessions, or there is a major disaster, or a fire, or a flood, or whatever the case may be. You can imagine from your perspective how that person might feel. Empathy is different. Empathy is when you have been through the same, if not similar, experience. Now, nobody can feel anything that anybody else can feel because we are all individuals and we all process and feel things differently. So, empathy, I don't have to imagine how you feel because I have been through a similar, if not the same, situation. So, for example, I don't know, if you lose your house, you lose all your worldly possessions. I have been through that. I can empathize. My circumstance might be different to you, but I've got a pretty damn good idea of how you're going to feel and what you've gone through and the after effects of it, because I've been there. I may have been there in a slightly different circumstance, but I have been there. You know, your circumstance might be losing everything because of bad planning or loss of employment, or I don't know. My experience was due to betrayal. So I've got a pretty good idea how you would feel. I probably feel a little bit more resentful about it than you do, or did, or whatever. But from an empathy perspective, I've got a good idea of it because I have been through it. And then we have what is very commonly now referred to as people who are empaths. And what exactly is an empath? A lot of people say there's no such thing as an empath. A lot of people will say, I'm sensitive. An empath can reflect in various different ways. In my experience, if I'm coming towards a tragic event, such as a vehicular accident, where somebody may have been severely injured or has died, I start feeling an overwhelming feeling of sadness long before I get to the scene. I feel it. I never understood what it was. I would burst into tears and think, what on earth? I was happy 5 minutes ago. What happened? And the only thing that changed is that I'm coming up to something that was tragic or is tragic. And I don't know what it is until eventually I get to the scene and I can see what has happened. So I never knew what that was. Apparently that is empathy. Apparently it is feeling emotions, sensations that don't belong to you. They belong to somebody else. There are a lot of energy readers are empathic. And you might say, well, what is an energy reader? That person is sensitive to shifting of energy. Everything is energy. There's a whole long discussion on energy. Maybe one day I'll go into it. But the empath is sensitive to changes in energy, to the emotions held by somebody else or something else. And they feel that change, that energy, that feeling, that emotion that is attached to it. So, yes, we're called sensitive. And somewhere along the line, we have this thing called compassion, which is apparently sympathy. And one of the definitions describes it as pity. Now, my feeling on pity is, if I pity you, I think you're pathetic. Sorry, that's my opinion. So if I say to someone, I pity you, you can bet your bottom dollar I have absolutely no respect for them, and I don't actually care what happened. I do not feel sympathy for them, but apparently the word pity is used as a descriptor for sympathy. And compassion would be feeling sympathy. So where all of this came in is last night, late yesterday evening, I received a call from a person walking a dog, three dogs actually, in the park where I tend to the feral cats. Now the park is enormous, and I don't know where all the feral cats are. And they're actually two other people who I know of who are feeding in this park and who are taking care of ferals. I've had numerous large organizations come in to assist me in doing the sterilization and release back into the park to keep the numbers controlled. Anyway, this lady phoned me and she alerted me to a kitten crying in a gutter in one of the houses inside the park. Now this park has got, I don't want to lie, probably 7, maybe 8 houses, proper houses, that were built 20 years ago. And that used to, and probably still do, belong to the city of Johannesburg. Somewhere along the line they were inhabited by what we call squatters in South Africa. These are people who move into properties and basically just live there. They don't pay for anything. They move in, they live there. And all of these houses are occupied by squatters, homeless people. A lot of them are actually what would be called illegal aliens to South Africa. They do not have the required paperwork to be in South Africa. And the city is well aware of them. Anyway, one of these squatters, for want of a better name, was grumpy because this kitten was crying. And the kitten had kept her awake the night before. Now, bear in mind, she actually has no right to be living in this property in the first place. Realistically, there shouldn't be unsterilized or even any cats in the park, but due to irresponsible owners not sterilizing their pets, there is a huge problem with unwanted cats and kittens. And very often, a cat falls pregnant and the owner dumps it. And this goes across all races. So please don't begin to say I'm being racist, because black, white, pink, green, orange, they all do it. They are irresponsible owners, and they dump their pregnant kitty. And their pregnant kitty breeds. Anyway, this kitten was in the roof, and this individual decided she wanted it gone, preferably deceased, because it was inconvenient for her. Thankfully, the dog walker heard this kitten crying and called me. And when I got to the park, there was one of the other feral feeding ladies had arrived and had brought a ladder because the kitten was in the gutter, apparently. And I reached out to one of the very few men in rescue who I am acquainted with or friends with, to please come and assist and help us get the kitten, because the kitten wasn't in the gutter. It was actually inside the roof. But access to the roof was a nightmare. I couldn't get through the ceiling to get to this kitten. As it turned out, there ended up being 3 kittens, which we removed from the premises in spite of the mommy cat being around, because these people wanted to murder the kittens. They were basically baying for blood. And I use the term people very lightly. They had zero care, empathy, or compassion towards another being. That being happened to be kittens, a cat, kittens. I brought them all home. Now, we know I have many cats. I brought them all home, all 3 of them. We couldn't catch the mother cat because she obviously very feral. The kittens are 2 weeks old. And I called people who I don't regularly communicate with. I called one lady who has been a friend for many years, and in fact runs a rescue in a different town. And she advised me on how to keep these 2-week-old babies alive. But I called in people who honestly don't owe me anything. They don't owe me anything. nobody had to assist. Realistically, I took responsibility for these kittens, and I had to get them through the night with zero experience of teeny tiny little kittens, and without the correct food, etc., for a kitten who's supposed to be drinking mommy cat's milk. I did manage to get them through the night with the help and guidance of people who have compassion. I was asked in the morning whether or not A, they had survived, and B, I had survived, because I am ridiculously sensitive. So if any of those kittens had not made it through the night, I would have been an absolute wreck. And the lady who phoned me this morning knew that, in spite of my assurances to her that I recognized the risk, because 2-week-old kittens are not easy to raise. They really aren't, and it's not easy to keep them alive, especially if you don't have the correct tools. Cute things like a bottle with a teat that the kitten can latch onto and drink, the correct formula for the kitten to eat, drink, in order to be able to live. She showed compassion to me and love. She is a friend. She showed love. I went to my vet, who I haven't seen for probably 2 years. And I was shown, she's moved to a new veterinary practice, I was shown a huge amount of compassion from complete and utter strangers. Because by this morning, I was haggard. I was literally haggard. I possibly got, an hour worth of sleep between trying to keep babies' body temperatures up high enough, their stomachs full enough, their bladders empty enough, and my own kitties away from these babies. So it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. People pulled together with the most incredible amount of compassion and kindness to help me get these babies through the night. And by 11 o'clock this morning, I had found an experienced bottle feeder who would be able to keep 2-week-old babies alive, undernourished, dehydrated 2-week-old babies. So the call to uplift them was a good one, because their mommy wasn't looking after them properly. Probably because their mommy was being frightened by the squatters who wanted them gone. The foster mommy was recommended through another friend. The absolute kindness, care, and love that was shown this morning to assist 3 seemingly insignificant little lives of cats who are overpopulated left me in awe of what people can actually do when they care. because that's what it is. It's caring. These are people who don't benefit from any of it. I mean, I can't pay anybody to look after stray cats. Nobody pays me to look after stray cats. The vet didn't charge me her fee. She charged me for the bits and bobs that she used and the kitty milk and so on and so forth, which stands to reason. But at the end of it, all of these people from last night, from the lady walking her dogs, all the way through to the foster mummy who eventually has taken these kittens, showed love, care, and kindness without any benefit to themselves at all, except possibly to feel good. And nobody expects a pat on the back for it. Nobody, including me. I battled. I mean, my friends have said to me, well done. Not exactly an easy feat. I did battle. I did it. I am proud of myself. I don't expect any accolades for it. I'm just really glad that I managed to help these 3 tiny little souls to maybe have a chance at a better life, because they will never go back to the park. They will now be raised and tamed. Well, they're tiny. They're 2 weeks old. They're not exactly wild. They'll be socialized, and they will go into a loving home as sterilized animals. And hopefully the new owners will love and cherish them for the rest of their natural lives. That is my takeaway from it. And that is the takeaway of everyone in this entire picture. That is compassion. That is care and kindness. Nobody expects sympathy. I suspect the majority of the people who were party to my tiny little rescue effort last night, and it is tiny because there are thousands of animals that are rescued daily by people. So my tiny little effort, the kindness and care that came out of that, and the empathy shown by the number of people who became involved in it. You know, at the end of the day, everybody could have just not answered their phone. Everybody could have ignored the appeal for assistance. Nobody did. The gentleman who climbed on top of the roof to rescue these babies out of the roof has an injured arm. He did it anyway. He did it anyway. Everybody has full-time jobs. Everybody has things that they need to do in order to survive. All of these people are empathic. They have empathy. They feel the plight of the animals they rescue. And it's actually quite remarkable to see in action. You will also find that most of the people don't particularly like humans, because the cruelty perpetuated by humans on animals is absolutely abhorrent. But when a bunch of animal rescuers come together to rescue, they do everything in their power. Everything in their power. They will share resources, they will share knowledge, they will share connections in order to help what a lot of people would think of as a mere animal. Just another kitten, just another dog, just another animal. These people will go above and beyond to help and not expect anything at all in return. I mean, hell, it would be nice if donations were received so that more carers could sterilize more of these animals. Because unfortunately, as a veterinarian, you need to cover at least your expenses. And while a lot of vets offer charity rates for rescue animals, it becomes pricey when the person doing the rescuing is also the person footing the bill. It becomes very expensive, it becomes very hard. And a lot of these people do everything out of their own pocket. So, next time you see an animal in need, you see a human in need, show some compassion, show some kindness, because every single voice counts. And seeing the voices that came together for me and those kittens last night and today has been heartwarming for me, because so often people don't. So often people turn away. But there are some absolutely awesome humans out there who will go above and beyond. They will bend over backwards to save the life of an animal, because all life matters. All life matters. Not only yours, not only your friends, all life matters. So, be the difference you want to see in the world. Sterilize your animals. If you don't have animals and you're unable to help at a rescue, a shelter, whatever you call it in your country, if you're unable to hand rear a small animal or care for an animal while an alternative home is found, please help the people on the ground. Every single dollar, rand, pound, euro, etc. counts. Every single one. A lot of these people are living below the breadline because they are using their own funds to help animals who actually aren't their direct responsibility. But they have made it their responsibility to be the change they want to see in this world. And this world will never, ever be a really good place to live until everybody starts understanding that you make a difference. You make a difference. You really do. And you can either be really nice and try to help, Or you can be the change you don't want to see. And you can sit around whining about the fact that everything gets worse and worse and worse, while you do jack about fixing it, while you don't contribute towards fixing it. You know, there's a saying, and I can't remember who said it. It was possibly one of the Gandhis or a Confucius or a, I don't know, Buddha or someone. And they said, you can measure a nation by the way they treat their animals. Please, be kind and compassionate to your animals. They are not an inconvenience. They are not to be removed, to be thrown away. It's bad enough that people throw people away. But to throw a defenseless animal away goes beyond hideous. It really does. And I measure people on how they treat animals. I do. I do have biases against people who are cruel to animals. And when I meet somebody who is genuinely kind, considerate, loving, caring towards animals, I know that they are a good, decent human being. Please, guys, please help where you can. There are too few people helping the defenseless. Have a great day now.